Internauts, people that follow the Web0 account, people out there really interested about building smart contracts in Rust, people really interested possibly about building trustless bridging solutions between multiple ecosystems. I'm really stoked here today to be on live stream here with the partners of the Blockspace Synergy Hackathon. My name is Sasha, and I lead developer relations efforts at Web0. And we've just launched this stream, guys. It's kind of an experiment to see whether people are interested in learning from the builders building the technologies. It's an experiment to see if people would want to keep getting on the stream and sharing about what they're building. But really what it is today, it's a focus for a really exciting hackathon happening in 2 weeks in Berlin at the Funkhaus, July 16 to 18. So last week I spent some time talking, or actually this was this week. On Tuesday, I spent some time talking about what you can expect from the hackathon. There is basically everything you need to know about the Blockspace Synergy Hackathon in terms of what you would expect if you participate. And we also went through the details about the prize pool. So I'm not going to really talk about that this time, but all you should know if you're new to the stream and you haven't had time to watch last Tuesday's stream, well, this hackathon is about having one main track where everything is geared towards teams that want to continue building after the hackathon. There's $20,000 prize pool there. And then there are some additional bounties from our partners. So this is what this stream is about today. It's introducing two partners that have put up bounties, a total of $15,000 combined. These partners are Hyperbridge and the Inc. Alliance. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on the people representing these partners right on the stream. And our goal today is to have them step us through what can be expected at the hackathon with working with their technologies. And also, maybe we can, bug them with some questions that we might have. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you're in the audience and you're planning to participate. These could be questions from anywhere ranging from what's a winning submission look like to you to what should I prepare leading up to the hackathon. So I'm gonna add Sean and Dan right here into the stream. How's it going, fellas? So Dan, actually, you want to kick us off with where you work and sort of what makes you the representative of the Inc. Partnership for the hackathon.
Yes, hello, Sasha. So yeah, my name is Daan van der Plas. I work at Rogue. We are a developer company in Polkadot. We're building Pop Network, Pop CLI. We are part of the Inc. Alliance, so maintaining and further developing Inc. And we are one of the core maintainers of Paseo. What was the next question?
Yeah, so that's a good intro. That's a decent intro. I mean, Dan, it's fair to say that you probably wear a lot of different hats in this ecosystem. I think most focused on developer tooling for developers building with the Polkadot SDK, as well as building smart contracts in Rust. So all things Inc. And so yeah, to just kind of not go to too much detail of all the things that you're involved with. One of the major things is kind of spearheading, leading the efforts behind developing with Inc. and the Inc. smart contract language. So for those that are brand new here, Inc. is a smart contracting language that allows you to do more than just smart contracts in a traditional sense, I would say. We can talk about this a little bit later, but in Rust, pure Rust. And that's the kind of selling point of Ink. And we also have Sean with us here from Polytope Labs. Sean, why don't you just give us a brief introduction? What do you work on? And yeah, and maybe you can say, like, why are you excited to be here, and a few words about you being excited for the hackathon. I believe you actually participated in last year's hackathon, right?
Yeah, no, we won. I think we won like $500. That was one of the highlights of my time at the Web3 Summit. So, yeah, no, my name is Sheon Lanlege, and I'm the co-founder of Polytope Labs. Polytope Labs is a blockchain research and development lab, and we try to explore crypto solutions and products. Our flagship product right now is Hyperbridge, which is a decentralized cross-chain bridge. And yeah, we have a few bounties up for the best use of the Hyperbridge functionality. So Hyperbridge allows developers to move, arbitrary data or assets between networks. But I think more exciting for me is that it also allows developers to query, cross-chain storage and information about potentially accounts and contracts that live on another chain, and allows applications to then do things with this information. I think a good example of this might be, and I don't really condone this, but you could potentially read the world chain, which is like an L2 on Ethereum, where they've sort of KYC'd all these different people, and then use that information as some sort of like KYC for your applications if you, for some reason, needed a KYC filter. So these are kind of the interesting ways in which you could definitely use this functionality. And yeah, excited for submissions to this bounty category.
Neat. Thank you so much for the intro. So again, like, guys, this stream is for people that want questions. Like, if you're in the audience, if you're watching right now and you're like, I want to know whatever, we're here to answer these questions. But so for the rest of our time here together, I suggest that we kick it off with the stuff that the Ink Alliance team is expecting and looking for, and then we move into what Sean is suggesting. Builders can build during the hackathon, but really more like what the Hyperbridge team is really looking for with the bounty that they put up. So why don't we kick it off with Dan, right? Like, just tell us, like, talk to us. Like, Ink has been a language that is somewhat, it's a powerful language. It's a powerful tool to do decentralized applications on Polkadot. You want to tell us a little bit more about what could be understood by that?
Yes. So I think brief history in Polkadot. So the last 1.5 years, maybe 2 years already, Parity switched from WASM contracts to Polka VM contracts using Revive. And what this allows is basically have Polkadot Hub, the system chain of Polkadot, where they have added the whole palette Revive, so the Polka VM virtual machine, to deploy, like before, Ink, Rust smart contracts, but also Solidity contracts. Now, when this happened, the Ink Alliance also came to life, and we have been working very hard on moving with this new transition, and making Ink smart contracts compatible with Solidity contracts. So on Polkadot Hub right now, and also what we hope to see in the hackathon, is people will be able to deploy Ink and Solidity contracts and build applications on top of that. So yeah, like, we have been working very hard, and we now are pushing Ink with its V6 alpha release in the hands of the developers. And yeah, like, we want to break it apart, fine tune it, and build things with it again. Ink is totally ready It's been a language that has been built for 6 years under the umbrella of Parity. And now with the Ink Alliance, we have some of the same core engineers that are still working on it, and it's in a really, really good state. And we are very excited for this new phase. And yeah, like build some awesome smart contracts with Rust.
So tell us, like, I mean, okay, I hear this, like, I hear a lot of work has been put into this migration and everything, and okay, fine, it's cool that it's RISC-V based, and that just kind of sounds like a cool thing to say. But what does it really mean for developers? Like, what does it mean from the perspective I can
Nothing.
build things?
Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. No. It's just. It is. I don't know. You can say very cool technical things about it, but in the end, the same contracts, like you're building the same contracts. You will be able to interact again with Solidity contracts in the same virtual machine, which was previously not possible. And this is a breakthrough, and this is why it's all, hallelujah, Polka VM.
Can I quickly say something as well, right? Like, I think it actually means something. I think this Polka VM thing means a lot for Solidity developers in the sense that a lot of the logic and a lot of the computation that was previously inaccessible, within a Solidity contract is now sort of opened up, and you can potentially still write your contracts in Solidity. But if you wanted to do very advanced cryptography, you wanted to do very heavy computation, and of course, maybe the libraries that you need are actually available in the Rust ecosystem and maybe not in the Solidity ecosystem, then you could treat the Rust side as a kind of coprocessor, right, for your Solidity contracts, and then you keep this nice, like, a clean abstraction of, like, I guess contract code and business logic code, and you separate that away from the Rust code, which is more like advanced computation, right? So I think this could be very, very, like, game changing. Like, and I'm saying this as a developer who's also written smart contracts and has been limited, by the lack of precompiles for things like basic, like, signature verification, right? Like BLS signatures, we only just recently got that. But of course, the space of precompiles is so much more. So you can see the Polka VM side as kind of like your own custom precompiles, right?
Yeah, I'm really happy you mentioned this, because like recently as a developer, I was actually tinkering with, we can do some really, there's a lot to do right now in the Polkadot ecosystem with ZK stuff. Like, it doesn't exist. Like, we don't have libraries, we don't have like integrations with the popular ones. Like, I was just gonna pull up RISC-Zero's like GitHub repo, and as a dev, like, I was actually trying to figure out how I can make a really simple SIRCOM-like workflow, right, with just creating a framework where you can easily generate proofs and then verify them. And but the verifier contract was in Solidity. I kind of just did that as a fun thing, but that flow is so broken, right? Like, and then so, well, yeah, Ink would be such an instrumental tool to make it super easy to just use all your Rust libraries to do ZK stuff, and then just integrate that into an Ink smart contract. And I think, Sean, you're contrasting with like Solidity world, where there's so many precompiles that are missing. With this, we have a little bit of an edge, right? So I pulled out the Artworks library because that's a pure Rust like ZK thing, and that's the first thing I could that comes to mind with like, what would I do if I had superpowers and can write smart contracts in Ink, in Rust? I mean, with Ink. But yeah, I think that was a really great comment on.
Can I ask something though? Like, what is the difference with Moonbeam having precompiles for Solidity contracts before? Like, what is the?
That's a great question. Sean, you're more of a Solidity dev than I am, or than I think both of us are.
Well, fair. I do have contracts that are deployed on mainnet. It's not easy. Yeah, no, I think the difference would be that you can basically bring your own precompiles. Like you want to do like OpenSSL verification on chain, like you could go crazy, honestly, right? You want to do TLS verification on chain, you just bring in, the Rust TLS library. I think it really just blows up. It's like a singularity point for on-chain developers, and sort of allows them to do more on-chain, right? Like I remember something that Bytebird tweeted, which is that we need to think beyond the ledger. Like Solidity has constrained developers into thinking of blockchains as databases. Okay, token here, token there, LP token here, LP token there. But now with the Rust engine, it's now a compute platform. And so I'm really excited, honestly, about the Hub and the Risk 5 approach. I think definitely we'll see a wave of like privacy applications and new privacy stacks in ways that just haven't been possible before.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of like just a good segue to talk about like what's really going on in the Polkadot ecosystem with this move towards Risk 5, right? And so I'm hoping to find a page right now. Help me if you guys already have it, but the hub, yeah.
While you're doing that, Shun, like, but that still doesn't answer like what is the difference with Moonbeam then? Moonbeam and precompiles, because Solidity contracts could just call into a precompile like they will be able to do now.
No, I mean, I think the difference is you would call, your some sort of sister module that's already in the same VM that you potentially deployed, to do some advanced Rust, right? But with Moonbeam, you're basically limited to whatever precompiles that they provide, right? So you'd be able to bring your own like custom logic.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would still need a chain that provides those precompiles.
We're saying that the precompiles will no longer need to live outside of the execution environment. They could just be like a Rust contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So now we can build. Okay.
Like
Yes.
like for example, yeah, you can build a
Yeah.
verifier without needing
Let's
to
go.
actually have them as have the curves as precompiles, for example.
Yeah.
So the flexibility is kind of huge. But guys, like, so I'm talking to the audience here, like audience, this is all really fresh and new, right? I mean, the fact that the Polkadot ecosystem already has Risk 5 based virtual machine in production. It just got launched on Kusama last week. It's a huge leap ahead of all other ecosystems out there, providing smart contract solutions for developers to easily just deploy their dApps. And Polkadot is kind of pioneering in this space for sure. Now, what it means, okay, this goes back to like what it means for developers. I think we just went on a big kind of tangent, which hopefully was useful to people watching. But about like, what does this mean for developers? What does it mean for a developer in their decision-making tree when they decide to choose Rust over Solidity? So can we have just a closing thought on this question?
Why Rust over Solidity? I think it's a language that you will benefit from beyond Web3 and what you do with Solidity. It's a language that is used by I don't know, like very big companies, and it has a lot of benefits in terms of security and performance. I have a hypothesis that because of AI, where coding in a way will become easier, like why as a developer would you, I don't know, like invest all your time in getting good with AI and Solidity if you can be good with Rust and AI? But back to your question, more secure and performant.
Cool. Yeah, one-liner. More secure and performant. Okay, and then maybe more of an ecosystem around it. Sean, what's your take? Rust over Solidity?
I think there's probably arguments to have both, honestly, right? There's a lot of tooling for Solidity. You can get like trace calls if your contracts fail on chain. I don't know if we have that kind of infrastructure like Tenderly for our Risk 5 smart contracts yet. So I would actually advocate for responsible use of both. So definitely do Solidity for things you need it for, like tokens, like interacting with other contracts, right? Interacting with DeFi, maybe you want to interact with DeFi stuff. That would just be so much easier. But if you now do advanced computation, you want to do things like AI for some reason, you want to do things like either cryptography, you want to do things like algorithms that potentially run for a long period of time. I think Rust wins out in that category. So yeah, different tools for different jobs.
Cool. I think it's a great segue to, well, first of all, guys, so people that are interested in tinkering with ink, go to the Ink Docs website. It's use.ink. Literally, that's the URL, use.ink. And there's really neat onboarding to creating your first smart contract, and then deploying your contract. There's even a UI here. If you go here, there's a UI to easily just deploy your contracts, and you'll be up and running using Ink in no time. So for the hackathon, Dan, what is it that you guys are looking for? You've sent me the bounty ideas. We haven't published it yet because we don't want kind of, we want to kind of, make it fair so people aren't working on the bounties before the hackathon, but we can talk about them a little bit. I think we have a high level outline on what to expect, and essentially, okay, that's nobody saw that, but Dan, talk to us a little bit about the what you're kind of looking for, is because I think in contrast to what Hyperbridge has prepared, the Ink bounties are a lot more segmented into different things, right? Again, guys, there's $10,000 for Ink, working on Ink related things. Now for Hyperbridge, there's one 5K prize for the best use of the SDK for storage read and write. So it's kind of like each one is different. But let's start with Dan, and tell us about the types of things you're looking for and how developers can get prepared.
Yeah, so like I said, like we have been building on this whole migration for the last 1.5 years, and we now want to battle test it. What is the best way to battle test it? It's to build applications, build smart contracts. So that's also one of the bounties, is build dApps. But then either by using the first precompiles that are available on Paseo Asset Hub, or use XCM, and some other ideas around.
Pause.
Sorry?
You said use
Pause.
precompiles, and then you said use XCM, and there was an and and an or. It was ambiguous. You want to kind of like step us through slowly?
Okay. Precompile.
Yeah,
I'll start with precompile. What is a precompile? So in Polkadot, you have a chain, and you can customize your business logic with all kinds of things, such as assets or NFTs. You call those pallets, literally modules within the runtime. And each module, for example, assets, needs a precompile to interact with for the smart contracts. So right now
it's like having like primitives that other smart contracts can call into.
Yes, so it's like, okay, you have your chain, and we have all these nice building blocks, primitives, features that that people can use to build things on, but also that smart contracts can utilize in their own logic. Now, in order to expose those features to smart contracts, you need precompiles, and the first precompiles available on Paseo Asset Hub during this hackathon will be assets. So creating tokens and interacting with them, selling, minting, burning, locking, all the stuff, and XCM. Now, what is XCM?
Yeah.
Can I?
So I think that was a good explanation. Bravo. There's no questions. So it's like people are super clear on this stuff.
Yeah. Good. Well, so what is XCM?
Wait. I'm gonna pause and share my screen, and you might understand why I'm sharing this. I want to share the Polkadot.js apps overview of the different chains, and when we say what is this, like, where are we deploying contracts, and why would we talk about precompiles in the first place, and why would we talk about XCM in the first place? So let me know if I'm too off script here, but hopefully it is helpful. Yeah.
You own the script.
Okay, so right here, guys. I'm just on this URL. This is like the block explorer for the Polkadot network and its other networks. So when I say other networks, it's like test networks, and yeah, pretty much the main Polkadot network. So, anyways, I'm here because we've been talking about this Paseo blockchain, right? And so, Dan, maybe like correct me here. Like Passet Hub is where we're expected developers to deploy their contracts. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So if I go to
Yes.
Passet Hub, I'm going to switch to this blockchain. And what I'm trying to just demonstrate is, if I'm a developer doing one smart contract on this chain, what does precompiles mean to me, right? Like, and I want to demonstrate this from looking at the different modules, like you described, that exist, right? So I should be able to see them here. And indeed, you said that there's the assets module, so we can interact with assets, correct? So this is this assets here,
Yeah.
right? So that means that the precompile contract is literally encapsulating all the functionality of this module. Or is all of it?
Yeah, depends. I don't know the precompiles in detail. Like they can expose, I don't know, whatever the developers want to expose. But in the end, yeah, like the best thing is to expose all that functionality, which I think with assets is the case.
So this is the scenario where I'm deploying one contract, and then I can call into the other modules in that blockchain, right? Now tell us about the XCM scenario.
Yeah, so if you, Francisco is right, it's not a Polkadot.js, is not a block explorer, it's a developer console. Thanks, Cisco. But yeah, okay, so this screen right now. So here on the left,
yes,
you see Paseo, which is basically Polkadot testnet. And you see all the parachains, rollups, app chains, whatever you want to call it, that are connected to Polkadot. Now, all these chains, due to the Polkadot protocol, can interact with each other. It's yes, they can interact with each other via XCM or ISMP. Now, XCM, cross-chain message protocol, you can execute, for example, a feature on another chain. So let's say you have chain X and chain Y. Chain Y can create very special NFTs. Now on chain X, you can call via XCM chain Y to create then an NFT. And do much more with XCM. You can make like multi-hop messages. It's very advanced, and you can do a lot. But yeah, so there is also a precompile to interact with XCM on Asset Hub. And this will mean that from a smart contract, you can basically, like execute whatever you want on whatever chain Asset Hub is connected to, but I assume it's with almost most of them. And this is maybe a nice bridge to Shun, what ISMP allows.
Exactly my thoughts. So we actually see Hyperbridge is a roll-up blockchain connected to Paseo. And step us through what that might mean for developers. Like, what could they do with this?
Right. So definitely the Hyperbridge testnet is connected to the Ethereum Sepolia network, the Arbitrum Sepolia network, Base Sepolia, I think Optimism Sepolia as well. the BNB chain. Actually, maybe it's just faster if I share my screen and I can show you guys sort of the live stats of the
Yeah,
testnet.
that would be super cool. So
That's really cool.
just to close this first sprint of we talked about ink, what you can do with ink, perhaps why ink might be a better choice over Solidity for your decentralized applications. And we had a little bit of a view about the bounties that Dan would be really excited for people to build, or the things people would like to build. And we've landed here because this is a nice place to kind of visualize all of this, right? We're expecting you to deploy your contracts on this testnet and perhaps do some really cool cross-chain integration. So those things are user precompiles that are available. Actually, I'm going to just set up this so that you can start with your screen, Sean. So use the precompiles that are available and do some cool things with XCM. XCM is the what would you? It's a tool. It's not a tool. It's a
message.
XCM is a way to be able to send messages from your smart contract between your smart contract and other blockchains that are connected, like we just saw. So Hyperbridge is one of those blockchains. So imagine integrating Hyperbridge into your ink smart contract, whereby you could be calling using Hyperbridge to blockchains such as, well, Sepolia, the Ethereum test network, and using that to integrate some logic that is cross-chain but outside of Polkadot. So pretty cool. Sean, take it away.
Awesome. So we arrive at the Hyperbridge Explorer, and this is just explorer.hyperbridge.network. If you want to open it up, it's live right now. And as you can see, we support 7 different networks on the testnet today. There's been over 500,000 messages. I think we had a small contest, and that kind of sent our messages up. But developers like the Bifrost team and our partners as well, like ZK Verified, they're not really showing up here, are currently using the Explorer and the testnet to sort of test out their applications that they'll be releasing soon. We're connected right now, as you can see, to the testnet, the Gnosis testnet, Sepolia, Optimism, Arbitrum, Base, the Binance Smart Chain, and of course Bifrost Paseo. If you spin up a parachain on testnet and you want to be connected to us, eventually you will show up here. I think what's pretty cool, and this is just I'm just geeking out here, is that you can see these latest blocks and these finalized heights in sort of this page. And this is essentially the height that has been verified by Hyperbridge. So, messages that were kind of emitted or dispatched, behind these heights will have already been finalized. And it also means applications can query for any storage item at any height that's less than or equal to these heights. So Hyperbridge, this is what I mean when I say that Hyperbridge is this sort of co-processor, is that it's doing the work of verifying all these different chains so that all these different chains only have to verify Hyperbridge. So as you can see on this other chains, I think we should probably rename that. You can see that we are streaming the Hyperbridge blocks and sort of its verified state to all these different blockchains. And this is basically the block number for the Hyperbridge blockchain, right? So they only need to verify Hyperbridge, and you can see all of the messages here. This one came from Bifrost Paseo, and it was sent to Base. Maybe if you can just see some details about what that looks like.
So yeah, while that's loading, like we're already peering into the details, what's under the hood kind of thing. But tell us like high level, like Hyperbridge is for a developer, it's what?
So for a developer, Hyperbridge is basically a cross-chain bridge, right? And you already know how cross-chain bridges work. You can just ask them to send a message to some, receiving contract on another chain, and they can do that for you. But I would say where Hyperbridge differs from your traditional cross-chain bridges is that you can also ask Hyperbridge to look at some storage item, some account, some maybe price data in the Uniswap contracts, and you can get that data, and it's going to be entirely verified by like cryptographic proofs. So I just wanted to quickly show up here, like we have all of these different networks, and you can see how many messages have come out of these networks. It's like 12K from Sepolia and all the like.
So here we have Bifrost, right? So that's the only chain that help me understand, like yeah, like what's the relevance of having only Bifrost? Like, I don't I actually I don't understand it.
No, we definitely have other networks. It's just that we are only indexing this because so this whole thing is powered by indexers, anyways. So we're only indexing Bifrost. But we actually recently integrated Kilt on testnet. So once we start indexing Kilt, that will show up here as well. So networks that choose to connect to Hyperbridge will essentially show up on this really nice
Okay,
dashboard.
cool. So back to what, like, kind of like where we sprung from to get here. Where like potentially we could have an ink smart contract actually doing some dispatching across networks. What does that look like?
So I mean, I can definitely pull up maybe an example contract here or example message. I don't want to use something from Bifrost. They just spammed us with messages, man. I guess they're testing a lot of stuff. So let me see. Let's see what a transaction from like Gnosis, for instance, looks like, right? So yeah, this is a transaction from Gnosis headed to the Binance chain. And you can kind of see that the transaction, maybe I should share this tab instead. So basically, this transaction initiated a cross-chain message, right? It called the Hyperbridge contract and said, "Hey, send this message to wherever it needs to go to," and that just like emits what we call a post request. So the messaging is called post request, the storage query is called get requests, and so we're trying to like draw parallels in cross-chain messaging with like HTTP, which a lot of people are familiar with, right? And yeah, once the message is sent, it's entirely up to Hyperbridge to then do some verification about that message. So we need to verify things like finality. So the blockchain that's initiating this message needs to finalize that block. Otherwise, we don't really have any guarantees about this message. It could be reverted later on. And so we verify finality. That takes as fast as the chain is able to produce this finality proofs and is able to finalize these blocks. I might show a message from Bifrost, and you'll see that it takes like 17 seconds, right? Because parachains, they have the fastest finality, of all the networks that we support. To be honest with you, once the transaction finality is verified, then we verify the transaction itself, right? So those are two different proofs. Transaction finality has to do with like the validators of the network, like finalizing the blocks, and then we actually now have to do some verifications of the transactions itself. Once that happens, then the transaction is now aggregated into the Hyperbridge state. So we put that transaction into the Hyperbridge blockchain itself. And now Polkadot simply has to finalize Hyperbridge itself, right? And that's pretty fast. It says 1 minute, 30 seconds. Actually, it was much faster than that, probably around 30 seconds. But we just have like this buffer where we wait for more transactions, in case so that we don't have to send multiple finality proofs. And once Hyperbridge has finalized that transaction, you just send a very short proof to the destination chain, and your cross-chain transaction gets executed, right? So this is kind of what that looks like on the destination chain. Um, I didn't want to go into all of the different steps because I just felt like maybe not really interesting. But yeah, once the transaction hits the destination chain and the contract that's actually supposed to process this message, does so successfully, then you get this event, right? This request has now been handled. I guess this was the contract, and it said, some escrow has now
So
been released.
what are
I'm not
the
too
kind
sure.
of top or coolest cross chain applications you're seeing developers build with Hyperbridge currently?
I'm not gonna lie. I have to say what Bifrost is building is actually very advanced. I didn't really, like they're coming up with use cases that I could have never foreseen. And this is one of the beautiful things about building infrastructure that enables all kinds of stuff. It's like a singularity you really can't predict. So Bifrost is doing this cross-chain liquid staking where if you have dot on like any chain, now that dot is multi-chain, you can actually wrap that for V dot and have that V dot like minted for you like instantly. But there's a cross-chain message that goes to the Bifrost chain and sort of orchestrates like all of that like wrapping, right? So they're sort of abstracting the cross-chain experience using Hyperbridge, but they're still able to provide like a very like almost instantaneous user experience for their users. Now I really can't beat that. What Hyperbridge is developing is just a simple like ERC20 cross-chain swap, so you can swap your USDT, USDC, or any kind of ERC20 asset in between chains, and that's all settled by Hyperbridge.
That's cool. It's cool that Bifrost is sneakily making the most of this completely trustless infrastructure that you guys have built. That's
Yeah, it's very exciting actually. Let's go take a look at what they're doing. Honestly, what are they up
So,
to?
hey, if we what kind of smart contract could we build that, I don't know, either calls the Hyperbridge chain, but
maybe stuff the flow. Is that what you're asking, Dan? Like, what's the flow of
No. Literally, what can people build in the hackathon? What could be, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah, no, I think the general idea I'm seeing is that there's some information that exists on some blockchain, and you don't necessarily want to maybe deploy it to that chain, so you can have this synchronous access to that data. Maybe there's some benefits to having your application somewhere else, but you still want to be able to access that data, right? So, for instance, things like prices of assets that may not be listed on the chain that you're on. Maybe things like cross-chain governance, right? So potentially you want to do your cross-chain governance, you want to do your governance on Ethereum, but you of course have deployed your contracts all across the EVM space, right? So you also want to be able to read things that should be executed by governance on these different chains, but you don't want to have governance on all these different chains. So these are really, really, I think, interesting applications as well.
Sorry,
Honestly,
my job here is to slow things down to make sure that people watching really get it, right? As a dev, what you just said, I kind of get it, because also we've been talking about what you guys are building for the last 2 years, but I just want to make sure that people understand what you just said. And I would suggest, can we hone in on price oracles? You've mentioned this this kind of application design whereby you can have a smart contract that basically fetches the prices of a DEX on another chain using Hyperbridge. Can we hone in on this a little bit and add some color?
Definitely. So, yeah, I mean, there's tons of applications for this. I think lending protocols definitely need regular price updates. So, you might be building a lending protocol, and you maybe don't want to use Chainlink. Maybe you don't want to use all the classic centralized oracles. Dexes are actually really great price oracles. Because they keep up to date with the prices of the assets that they're holding. So you could potentially issue what we call a GET request to Hyperbridge, asking it to read the storage item where these prices are stored on the potentially Uniswap contract, or really any kind of DEX contract, and get that information on the chain that you're currently on, and do something with it, whether that's liquidate some loans or honestly whatever.
Cool. And so how is Hyperbridge being used here?
So what Hyperbridge does is, because it already holds the verified states of all the different blockchains, it has these what we call state roots. It's then able to use state proofs to authenticate the information that's in the blockchain, right? And I'm getting very technical here, but the gist of it is that we can securely read the blockchain state and read contract state and read account state. Really any information that you want that's on chain, we can read this securely and have that information over to you so that you can do something interesting with it.
I mean, so, Sean, you and I have chatted about this a few times, and it's always blown my mind, because ultimately what it really means is we can build Oracle solutions, trustless Oracle solutions with Hyperbridge, i.e., we can be building in the application space that is completely separate from what you would think when you're typically using a bridge, which is just to bridge assets. But we can do these things with Hyperbridge. Dan, I'm curious, do you have any thoughts or comments on that? Does it resonate with you?
I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to derail the.
The goal here is if it's not clear for you, then it's probably not clear for the developers.
No, it is clear to me. I think it's super cool, and the way that Hyperbridge is built is that, I don't know, you can get this information a lot faster than by the other bridge that we have, or XCM. Now, and I'm talking here about the trustless bridges. I don't know any of the other bridges outside the Polkadot ecosystem that might also be very fast. But Yeah, I think if we can do cross-chain things like in a fast way, then you can really abstract away this infrastructure where there are multiple chains, and you can really start. You are not hindered in any way, and
Mhm.
I think that has always been, or that is a problem sometimes in Polkadot, where we have all these different chains, and if you do something with XCM, it takes a while. So if you then also want to build an application on top of that, where you have users that don't want to wait for, I don't know. Yeah, it's I think it's very interesting, and I encourage everyone to start building with Ink and Hyperbridge. Um, yeah, with and
Like explore these use cases.
yeah, explore it and give us feedback so
Yeah, so
that we
it's
can
really about
improve it
that.
even more, because that's all we need.
Yeah,
So
like Sean mentioned, like he's like, I didn't even know that you could really do this. Like Bifrost team is like, blowing my mind. And I think that's a good example of these technologies are out there for you guys to build stuff with, and like we can't predict like how they're going to be built. But we as the engineers, like I'm not talking about me personally, but you guys, Dan and Sean, like are the people that are going to take in feedback and like help shape these kind of core infrastructure tools.
yeah, and I think
Best
that's also, I don't know, a good shout to everyone that's watching, and also to the people that are not watching. But come to this hackathon, because there are prizes to build with Ink and Hyperbridge, and both Sean and I will be there, and there will be more people that are ready to help, um, and yeah, also co-build, explore, think, whatever.
Yeah.
So really 3 days of building with some of the coolest things in Polkadot at the moment. Yeah.
So to not derail too much, and like considering we've been streaming for the past almost 50 minutes, we will need to be wrapping up soon. But I do want to put the spotlight on Hyperbridge's bounty. I think we talked a little bit about some really good context to now jump right into Sean. Like, what is it that you're looking for people to build, and like how can they be successful at winning potentially the 5K pot or a part of it?
So I mean, for sure. I mean, I think it's I like to whenever people ask me like what kind of applications, crushing applications do I find interesting, I would say that a lot of the applications, crushing applications that are successful right now are more related to DeFi, right? So things that power DeFi and things that make DeFi sort of more efficient ultimately. So yeah, I think I would love to see innovative use cases for this storage query around DeFi. Now, hear me. Let me blow your mind a little bit. Not only can you query the storage of any blockchain at any height or at any like time frequency, you can also query the storage of the blockchain that you're on, right? You can actually ask Hyperbridge like, what is the previous, like value for this like storage item on this blockchain that I'm on. So you could do things like introspect your own chain. You could actually learn about transactions that have happened before, and you can do really cool things with this. I thought PancakeSwap using some cross-chain technology to allow people to get like discounts on their trading fees if they've been using PancakeSwap, enough. And they do this by sort of looking at the historical state of the blockchain. So you could also do this with Hyperbridge today. You could query the historical state of the chain that you're on to try to get information about like how many times has this account traded, or what volume of transactions this has this account traded, and you can then use that to offer discounts and make DeFi basically cool. So I would love to see a lot of stuff around DeFi. I'd love to see a lot of stuff around cross-chain governance. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm really open to like anything really that's like really out there, really like innovative, and yeah, just what kind of applications do you think can now exist as a result of being able to look at your historical blockchain state or look at the historical state of other chains
Cool.
as well?
Yeah. So, guys, hopefully this gives you a lot of inspiration and the right kind of mental model to be successful at this hackathon. And successful, what do I mean by successful? I mean, guys, like the whole point is for participants to learn new things, right? So I think like success is just, try these different frameworks out. Again, like Dan said, Sean and Dan are going to be there as mentors. We will have a very, very solid mentoring team. I talked about this on Tuesday. It is your chance to try new things out. And I want to point out that what these guys are building is very unique compared to like what other things are being done in Web3 space. So big kudos for all the work you guys put. I want to just, before we close the topic of, what you could build with Hyperbridge, the storage querying and everything that you talked about, Sean, can you share your screen for just 2-3 minutes where you can just tell developers what is it that they need to get prepared if they want to be super successful, hit the ground running next or in 2 weeks at the hackathon? So I'm
Yeah, I can quickly I can quickly share my screen. So we're looking at the Hyperbridge documentation right now. This is under the Solidity SDK, I think, category. And you just come straight up to dispatching messages. Of course, you can take a look at all of the different components of our protocol, but I think dispatching messages is where it's at. So just skip post requests, skip post responses, and just jump straight down to get requests. A GET request, like we said, allows you to perform these asynchronous storage reads of a blockchain state. So you can read the account object, or you could read storage slots in a contract storage. And if you wanted to dispatch a GET request, you just need to fill out this form. Basically which chain are you trying to read? What height do you want to read at? So you could potentially read like older heights. You don't have to always read the latest height. You kind of just define the storage keys you want to read, some timeout information. So how long you want this storage query request to live for before it times out, and some just metadata, right? So, and yeah, you can now basically read the blockchain, read the state of any blockchain, and you just call our contracts in this manner, and we do all the heavy lifting for you. And of course, you can always track your requests on our Explorer here. So if you're testing your stuff out, you can definitely just come out here and you'll be able to see your requests in real time.
Super cool. So we'll have all this like kind of in a one pager for hackers. There will be developer resources, including Ink stuff, including Hyperbridge stuff, and some more partners to be announced. But so here's a closing thought here to kind of to kind of meld the two pieces of technologies together. It is possible to call a Ink smart contract from a Solidity contract, correct? And so you guys know that hackers are able to kind of accumulate bounties, right? So like, if they want to do some Hyperbridge stuff, they can do some Ink stuff too. So here's an idea, guys, for you. Build a type of Oracle price feed that then triggers some execution of some heavy compute on Ink with Ink. I'm failing to like find a concrete example.
Just call an Ink smart contract that does something. Like doesn't matter.
Based on some cross-chain event. Like that's a cool that's kind of a cool idea. Now it's up to you guys to come up with a meaningful use case. We are looking for submissions that are planning to continue to build after the hackathon. So besides just a fun learning environment for you guys to like tinker with these new technologies, we are looking for people that are really eager to continue working post hackathon. So
yeah, can I say something on that too, Sasha? And I'll merge it with a final closing of Ink. So 10K prizes. Ink is ready for development. Everything that is now on Polkadot Hub, Paseo, everything what Polkadot is focusing on right now. Again, Polkadot Hub, smart contracts on Acid Hub. Ink is ready, and we will have examples. We have docs to really kickstart see. Well, basically, we start with just building whatever that's out there in the industry. Let's build it on Polkadot. And after that, okay, let's see what we can do here, what we can't do everywhere else. And there's a lot. But let's just first start with just let's build. Let's build a lot of things. And there's money. And the cool thing is, so the 10K is coming from the Inc. Alliance, which is the alliance that is doing the development behind Inc. And the incubator, which is a bounty that funds projects. And right now we are focusing on tooling and applications. And the reason that we were so interested in this hackathon is because of the way it's set up, where, okay, first part or the main track, first part is like you win. You have to then, for the second half of the prize, you will have to continue your project. And like, we are eager to find teams that we can after that funnel to the incubator, where we can fund you for up to 50K. So yeah, come and build with Inc. If you're a Rust developer and you want to learn about Polkadot and yeah, I don't know, learn from people like us, come to the hackathon and we will help you, and everything will be there to kick off your journey.
The link below actually is the incubator. Thanks for sharing that, actually, Dan, because it is all about teams that are going to continue building in the ecosystem, and that we have the support to do that. This hackathon is really focusing on giving hackers support post hackathon. Sean, I'm curious, you guys have any grants also that you might want to share?
So unfortunately, at this time, we don't yet have grants for Hyperbridge, but this is definitely in the works. Once we have all of our tooling, right now we have all these SDKs that don't have developer docs yet, so I don't want to send anyone into the deep end so early. But once all of our developer tooling and developer infrastructure is live, then you can definitely expect to see some grants coming out of Hyperbridge.
Cool. Well, any last tips you want to leave our audience today in their preparation potentially for coming to the hackathon?
I mean, for me, I would just say, think outside the ledger. Think outside the ledger. Blockchains are a compute platform, and they essentially allow for trustless computation that we don't necessarily want to trust any middleman with. And so, ideas that are leveraging blockchains as a compute platform are definitely going to be the next generation of blockchain applications. So definitely incorporate that into your bounties in any way. And yeah, I'm looking forward to really interesting submissions.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. I think this wraps it up. I'm going to get you off the screen and just close up with a few call to actions for our audience. But we'll see you in Berlin Funkhaus, July 16th to 18th. Cool. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Let's get you. Thanks, Dan. All right, friends. That was a great stream. I think. Hopefully everyone is now up to speed with what the Inc. team is looking for with their bounties, and as well as all of the things you can do with Hyperbridge and what the Hyperbridge team is looking for. So I hope this was an informative session. I wanted to close with the note that next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. we will also be streaming just like we did today, and we will be featuring some builders in the ecosystem, as well as potentially some other partners like we did today. So stay tuned on the updates and announcements about what the program will be on Tuesday. We will then also be streaming on Friday. And then the last stream before the hackathon will be the Tuesday just before that, the kickoff date of the hackathon. So it's really great to have you all here. Come with your questions. I see very little questions in the chat. Really, don't be shy. Like, we're here to answer questions, so long as they make sense and they can help others also looking to understand what the hackathon is about and anything relevant to the technologies that we're putting forward for you guys. So that being said, I wanted to just mention that we are very inviting to non-technical people. This stream, featuring these two partners, Inc. and Hyperbridge, it does lean a lot to the kind of more developer-oriented things, but we have a bounty for marketing, and we really, really encourage people to sign up to the hackathon and join other teams so that they could contribute to the most successful submissions to the main track. So please, 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 if you are non-technical, i.e. Not really into developing, writing code, don't feel that you don't have a place at this hackathon. You do. We will have support for you guys. We will be having sessions where a lot of the ideating will become an instrumental part of the 3-day hack, and especially after the hackathon. So bear that in mind. And also, if you are a developer, invite your non-developer friends. Cool. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.